So here we have a 5-residue peptide, and this sort of problem is testing your ability to recognize amino acids and see if you memorized the shorthand nomenclature as well, which is the 3-letter and 1-letter representations. So it's going to be really helpful if you don't have your amino acids memorized, just to have a cheat sheet, a reference sheet of all your amino acids next to you, and just do a whole bunch of problems like this. And then when it comes exam time, you'll fly right through this. So with this problem that we have here, it's important to know that we're going to talk about our amino acids going from the N terminus, which is right, oh, that's not the one I want, right here. And we're going to talk about our amino acids going towards the C terminus, which is this way. So in this case, we're going to write our amino acids going from left to right. Now it's important to know that peptides can be upside down, reverse, what have you. So you've just got to write it in respect to termini. So you just got to identify where the termini are, and then you can proceed from there. So in this case, right, you can just match up the structure of your amino acids. So for this one, you're going to recognize that it's tyrosine. Either you're going to know this, or you can just look at your cheat sheet, and then we're just going to write it going this way. And so when you get to an exam, you can have a trickier question like this. Now, first thought, you might think, okay, well, I don't see a C terminus on here, right? There's no carboxylic acid hanging off of either end. What do I do? Can it have 2 N terminuses? Do I just write it both ways? Well, valid thoughts, but no. It might help to draw an isolated amino acid, like this, where you have an N terminus and a C terminus. So this is super classical. You'll see the R group comes between the carbonyl and the N group, or the N terminus. And so you want to look at both ends of the peptide. So you have one end here, and the other end is here. Well, you say, well, which end does the R group come in between the nitrogen and the carbonyl? Well, this is the R group here. It's a glycine, so the R group is just an H. So that means this must be the N group, right? Or the N terminus, because the R group is between the N terminus and the carbonyl group. So that would mean that this is the C terminus. And you can check that over here on the other termini, or terminus. The R group here in the cysteine, which is forming this disulfide bridge here, it comes between the N terminus and the carbonyl. So that means this right here is your N group, and you're going to write your amino acids going along the peptide backbone this way. And it's important to know that the R group will alternate sides of the peptide backbone, right? So this tyrosine is on this end, whereas the cysteine is on this end of the backbone. And so we're just going to write our amino acids again in order. And you just, by the time you're at the exam, you've just got to know these 3-letter and then the 1-letter nomenclature for these amino acids. But there's one more trick with this problem. If you didn't have if you do have your amino acids memorized, this could be another trick, right? So you're going to see a disulfide bond here between 2 cysteine residues, and the way that you're going to annotate that in your shorthand is just by drawing a line with your sulfurs, and it's a super easy one to do. It's just really important to know that your peptide backbone and your disulfide bond, right, that bridge there, those are 2 different things. And then you just want to extrapolate your 1-letter representation from your 3-letter, or your 3-letter from your 1-letter. It doesn't matter which one you draw first. If you have them memorized, it shouldn't be too hard. And this takes practice to learn. But there are a lot of phonetic tips and shortcuts that you can use to memorize these. For example, glycine, GLY is the 3-letter, which would make sense. GLY is the first 3 letters of the word, and then G is the even shorter hand representation of glycine. But when you start to run out of letters, right, proline takes P. So what do you do with phenylalanine? Well, phenylalanine, it sort of sounds like an F, so the shorthand or the 1-letter representation is F. So whoever invented the description or the shorthand nomenclature, they were thinking about us students, and they try to make it as easy as possible. But we only have so many letters in our alphabet, so This takes a bit of practice and you'll have it. So just do a whole bunch of problems just like this, and in no time you'll have all your amino acids memorized.